So we'll get to some more comments here in just a few minutes. Again, if you share the show, let me know. We will put you in the share zone. Kyle says, good afternoon, the Honeybee King of the Upstate. What's up, Kyle? Good to hear from you. Mac says, Mac, can I push this on hold? Why do you think Notre Dame doesn't schedule regular season SEC teams? I'd have to look to think about the last time they did. I would really have to look, but that's a good question, Max. So let me put that on hold because I do want to talk about something I really didn't get to yesterday. The AP poll came out, and we talked about the top end of the AP poll, right? And you'll recall we had a conversation here a couple of weeks ago about Joey Galloway and his comments that the ACC was terrible. And look, I mean, when I've talked to people that have been around this league and guys who cover it, it has been pretty indefensible what this league has done. But at the beginning of the season, I always feel like, man, you got to give people their due and their opportunity. And so just looking at the AP top 10, the AP top 15, really got me thinking about how and or why the ACC is viewed the way it is, and would it be viewed differently if Notre Dame was in the league? And again, this is a Notre Dame team that has not won a national title since the 1980s. They played for a few. They've been pushed around on the biggest stage a couple of times. But if you look at it, in the AP poll, your top 10, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, and Georgia are the top 5. All 5 getting first place votes, which, if that's any indication, we could be in for a wild season. Texas A&M 6, Iowa State 7, Cincinnati 8, Notre Dame 9, North Carolina 10. So again, in the top 10, there are 2 ACC teams in the coaches poll, in the AP poll, North Carolina and Clemson. There are 3 SEC teams with Alabama at 1, Georgia at 5, Texas A&M at 6. And it got me thinking, if Notre Dame was in the league, the ACC would currently have 3 teams ranked in the top 10. And the SEC would have 3 teams ranked in the top 10. And if you stretched it out to 15 teams, in the top 15, the ACC would have 4 teams if Notre Dame were in, and so would the SEC, as Miami checks in at number 14. So what a difference Notre Dame would make, I think, even though they haven't been spectacular, but just in the recognition of the league in a sense. Because even at number 10, people don't buy North Carolina. And at 14, people prove it to Miami. I don't know that Alabama, Georgia, and even Texas A&M get questioned prove it. It's just that's who they are, and that's what they are. And so from that standpoint, it does create an interesting argument of how or what would the perception of the ACC be if Notre Dame was in the league every year? If when you looked at the top 10, you said, man, there are 3 teams from the ACC, 3 teams from the SEC, 1 team from the Big 10, 1 from the Big 12, and 1 from Conference USA. 2 from the Big 12. I mean, if that were the case every year, does that make your league? I don't even know if the right phrase is to say, does that make your league be judged better? That doesn't sound like English to me. But does it make your league judged better if you just had that one additional one additional team in it. I mean, I think it's possible. I really believe it's possible. I mentioned the entire top 25. Let me give you the remaining rundown again. We leave off at North Carolina at number 10. Oregon's 11. Wisconsin checks in at 12. Florida 13. Miami 14. Southern Cal 15. LSU is 16. Indiana 17. Iowa's 18. Penn State 19. And Washington checks in at 20. Your bottom five are Texas at 21. Coastal Carolina. How about the Chanticleers at 22? Ooh la la, Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, checking in at 23. Billy Napier and the boys, Utah at 24. Arizona State checking in at number 25. So again, as it all goes, and as we all look at it, how different would the ACC be viewed with Notre Dame in? And again, this sort of a byproduct and piggybacked off of that conversation that we've had about the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten possibly working together. And I'll go back to the fact that for me, this all sort of piggybacked off of that conversation yesterday as I was thinking about the leagues and maneuvering people around in Notre Dame, and I'm driving and boom, like, oh man, would the ACC's perception be a lot different if the Fighting Irish were in the league? And then I started looking at, how many teams would be in the top 10 from the ACC and the SEC, how many teams would be in the ACC or the top 15 from those leagues. And I feel like it probably would help significantly. I can't determine that perfectly, but I feel like that. Well, Texas and Oklahoma might be leaving the Big 12, but it sounds like Oklahoma's having some trouble keeping some wideouts. We'll tell you about it next.